Ha ha ha. I'm very funny. That was me on Snapchat right before Hurricane Irma hit. Before Hurricane Irma hit, there was a eclipse, a lunar eclipse in Virgo on August 21st. And I was scared mainly because I had just moved to St. Thomas, moved like my whole life. I had decided I was going to find my ancestors in St. Kitts Island, and I had found out who I was, and I was satisfied with who I was in the universe, and I started helping people awaken to who they are because that's what my name means, the goddess of the dawn. And I know very well who I am and what I'm here to do. Now we're here facing 3 eclipses in a row. Let's see how destiny gets down. Hey everybody, my name is Aya. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel, A Very Good Life. I'm not really good at mentioning my website and stuff I'm doing, so I'm going to do it at the beginning instead of waiting to the end. I'm working on a podcast called Trigger Happy, and I just may put the first episode in the description. That's why I'm mentioning it. And I'm also working on a workbook to go along with it. It's to assist people in their shamanic journey in using their triggers to help empower them and bring back and kind of to do some soul retrieval in your everyday life. Okay, I got that out the way. I feel so what you call it, self-conscious when I'm plugging things. I don't know why. That's how I was when I first started my business. Just I didn't have any clue how anybody was going to know about me because I don't like to talk about myself for real, for real. I like for people to have respect for me and who I am and what I do because I'm passionate about it. But I don't like being like, hey, I got these watches. Like I'm not that. But you got if you're an entrepreneur, you got to get out of that. So yeah, at the beginning of this video, I showed you a clip of a Snapchat I did because that's my sense of humor when when there's natural disasters or stress. I tend to make fun. Tend to laugh and try to make the best out of it, even if I'm scared a little bit. But before the hurricane hit 3 years ago when I was in St. Thomas, there was eclipse. And I didn't really learn the mythology of eclipse until after I went through it. One of my teachers taught me because I had been through 2 eclipses. I went through Hurricane Irma and then I evacuated to Puerto Rico thinking that I was going to stay in Puerto Rico for a year until everything blew over in St. Thomas, and I ended up in Hurricane Maria. I ended up basically getting kicked out of Puerto Rico because they were like, you don't belong here, you belong on the islands. Let us put you in this stadium where all the people from the islands are. Then when I got to the stadium, there was no room for me in the stadium because of people from FEMA had came and took over the stadium. And then they were like, well, where is she going to go? And I was like, well, where am I going to go? And then I got put onto an emergency humanitarian flight back to Georgia, which I was pissed off because I did not want to go back to Atlanta. I was trying to get out of the United States and get started on my journey that have always wanted to do is to just travel and see where I wanted to live out in the world. So that's why I moved to St. Thomas, because I'm like, well, I was going to move to Bali, but my family had talked me out of just straight moving to Bali because they were like, I don't know, I don't know, they made me feel some type of way, all of their protesting. So when I moved to St. Thomas, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. I just moved. And they found out when they found out, how they found out, I don't know. They definitely found out when I came back. Maybe people knew when I started posting pictures on Facebook or something. I don't remember. But yeah, that also heightened my how do I say this? When you go through a natural disaster like that, an intense natural disaster like the hurricanes that I went through, it built character in me. It built strength, like even physical strength that I didn't know I had. I was like chopping down trees to help people get to their houses. It built it showed me my own humanity. It showed me Mother Nature. It showed me her power, and it also showed me her compassion, because after a hurricane on a tropical island, there's all these mangoes, breadfruit, avocado, coconuts on the ground. It's like Mother Nature's like, well, I had to do a cleansing, but you're not going to starve. Here's some food, you know. And then there was community. There was the sharing of our stories, and we did potlucks. We shared everything. We came together as a community. That's how I got to know all of my neighbors and stuff like that. But there's a dark side to humanity, not necessarily in what Mother Nature feels like she has to do in order to, because there's two stories going on. There's the Hindu mythology of Rahu and Ketu, the north and the south node of the moon. And then there's the African ancestral mythology going on, where the hurricanes is the ancestors who are upset. And then we have the story of harp going on too, where they're saying that they are manipulating the weather so that they can have certain results, and have certain reactions from the human race. So there's like all of these mythologies and legends, and maybe some truths, and maybe some exaggerations and folklore going on there. And then there's your actual real life experience that you get to weigh all of that by. So we have this south node that's actually conjunct the lunar eclipse. And most of the time, because I was doing some research, because I'm not really too hip like on the science, because it's not very scientific, because the north and the south node aren't real planets, which is why they're called shadow planets. They don't exist in real life. They're like they're degrees and points between the sun and the moon, and they predict eclipses. That's what is used to predict eclipses. Now, the ancients, basically us, because we are our own ancestors, really. We, I, would use astronomy and astrology to predict events, because nobody likes to be caught off guard by volcanoes and earthquakes and hurricanes. And they found that a lot of times these natural disasters would happen after eclipses. So people were rightfully scared of eclipses. They weren't like, ooh, let me look into the sky and get my glass. They were in the house and they were chanting and fasting and praying for mercy that the disaster or the war would not hit their doorstep, you know. And so what happens after these types of events? Well, there is the wiping out of everything that's old. And then there is a period of rest because you are raw, emotionally, physically, mentally drained. You can't, there, I mean, after those hurricanes, the sky was like gasping for air. That's how it looked to me. I was like, whoa, there's like nothing left. There's nothing left in the sky. There's nothing left for the earth to give. She's like, I'm out. I'm out. Peace. You know, and so therefore you follow suit. You know, you do what nature does. You lay around and you wait and see what happens next. Now, a lot of people were like looking at their flattened homes and trying to gather the things that they could after the loss, which is normal, you know. And then there's, okay, so am I going to stay and help to rebuild, or am I going to have an exodus? And that was the choice that I had before me when I was in St. Thomas. I was like, I can stay here because I say I want to move here. You know, I wanted to find my ancestors. I wanted to go to St. Kitts and Nevis because that's where my family's from. And I had never been to the island, let alone got in touch with my roots, you know. That's a part of the reason why I went and chose to go there. So I'm like, well, I say I want to be this, this, and that, and I want to do this, this, and that. So let me put my money where my mouth is. So at first I decided to stay. Then reality hit of what the next 5-10 years were going to look like. And the reality hit from people who had prior experience 20 years ago from the last hurricane that devastated the island, and they was up and out. And so I was like, you out? You ain't staying? And you've been here? Oh, okay. It must be bad. It must be very, very bad. They're talking about no food, no water, no this, no that. And I needed Wi-Fi or some type of internet in order for me to work because I had to begin to build my business online. You know, all my clients and stuff were online. I was tutoring kids. I was doing tarot readings online. And, you know, I was like, this ain't looking good for the kid. I think I'm going to have to swing. I'm going to have to swing out. I'm going to have to head out. You know, and so I did. And, oh, man, that was an adventure. In the midst of the disaster, I had so many adventures. My life was not humdrum, dull, or like boring. It wasn't, it was like an adventure every day. I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, I was on the edge of my seat on a speedboat 1 minute, escaping one island to go to the next, you know, heading into new territory. I love Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is beautiful. And then the hospitality was really amazing because they were giving away free Airbnbs for people who had to evacuate. But the dark side is another hurricane hit, and I ended up not in a comfortable mansion with a pool and a chef and all of the amenities that I had in St. Thomas because I had been there for a while and I had built relationships with people and I knew people, you know, and I was very well sheltered. In Puerto Rico, I had only been there for 2 weeks. And so the person I was at, he didn't feel anything for me. And he was like, well, I'm going to drop you off at the shelter. And so that's where I was until I got on a humanitarian flight, basically getting kicked out of Puerto Rico. But after that, having to go back home, I was so different. My perspective on life, like what was important to me, and the depth of my connection to my soul, to myself, to the goddess had deepened. And I mean, if anybody ever looks at my Facebook page, I'm not on there no more. You can see, like, I was so, like, involved in my purpose. I mean, I was up and running. It wasn't as easy. It wasn't as easy as I am making it sound through conversation, because when I had left, I had not revealed myself to the world, to my family, to my friends. I had only just maybe make gestures about who I am and what I'm put on earth to do. But I wasn't outspoken about it like I am now. I had to break through that wall of fear that was holding me back. The judgment, that's that South Node in Sagittarius, the judgment of what other people would think of me if I were to be free. Freedom comes at a cost. Freedom comes at a cost of sacrifice of your old self. There's the imprisoned self, the enslaved self, the self that has shackles on their throat chakra, has shackles holding them, weighing them down, their past weighing them down. This is an opportunity to let go of the past. No matter what happens, it's an opportunity to be free from any type of criticism, enslavement, judgment, and violence. You are allowed to and encouraged to put it all on the line, to say what you really think and how you really feel, and express your truth, which is the North Node in Gemini. Yeah. And so eclipses, what I'm learning about them, is more about your destiny, and more and also about things moving really fast that maybe would have not moved so fast if certain events have not happened. We are all on the path of liberation, no matter what stage of development you're at, or what qualities you withhold inside of yourself and your character, whether you're dark-sided or more light, or more about passion, getting the results you want out of life from your actions, or whether you are here for the fruits of the spirit, or whether you worship ghosts and demons, or whether you worship demigods, or whether you worship the true God, the creator, the goddess, the unborn, the eternal energy. We are all here for the same goal, and that is to be free and to liberate ourselves. What does that mean? That means to liberate yourself, to have the experience that you are God, that you are God consciousness. Because God really wants to experience itself, herself, himself through you. See, everything else is already evolved. The trees are evolved. The herbal kingdom is evolved. The crystal kingdom is evolved. The animal kingdom is evolved. Everybody's waiting on us. Peace to you. That's all I have to say. Bye for now.